That will then drive the selection criteria. What kind of teams, what kind of architects, what kind of specialists, what kind of project managers do you want? Are you trying to do it very fast? Are you trying to win an award from Prince Charles? What are you trying to do? And indeed, the record of the parties in working together is very crucial. Then, under this document, which was published by the Construction Industry Council, blessed by a strategic forum, you send out questionnaires to invite proposals from pre-qualified firms in the different categories. You review and score their responses because you've prioritised your selection criteria. You interview the shortlist, you visit the offices and sites, you look to see how it really is, and then you select the integrated project team. Now, you don't know anything about price of the project at the moment. What you've done is you've formed your rugby team, your football team, your team of the best players who you think should be able to deliver your functional brief. And very crucial, there must be an audit trail, because you've got to be able to show that you have balanced, if you like, competitively to get the best choices. And that's, again, was something touched on earlier on. So now let's look at the way forward. You now pull together, in that way, your integrated team. And notice you've got FM there. Absolutely crucial. If you're thinking about sustainability, if you're thinking about the operational performance, you must have that influencing the design right from the beginning. And you form them into a team. They actually have got to want to work with each other, to be prepared to work with each other. And their choices, the choice of these people, is in accordance with EU directives and in accordance with selecting the team that I've just been through. They then work together, not in competition with others, although if you've got a number of schools, you could have parallel teams working in parallel on similar schools, so you can make a comparison. But they now work being paid. I personally wouldn't pay profit. I would just pay the cost of the people with the supporting overhead, a proper way of paying for the real cost of support, to work up a design solution and cost plan. As I'll describe a little later on, you then risk assure this as you're going along. The actual choice of people is looked at by people in risk assurance. Come back to that. What they come up with just could be a stray, so you need to have objective benchmarks to check it against, or you can call them world-class benchmarks. You encourage a virtual company ownership, something we talked about in the Movement for Innovation, and you incentivize them. And if you work in that way, you are actually will be able to ensure the performance and the cost plan that they've come up with. I'll come back to that. What behaviours will you expect? Very different. Because they've agreed that they will not claim or blame from each other, unless there's fraud, obviously, everybody wants to pull together. It's a completely different culture. Collaboration and mutual support, supported by an agreement, not stuffed in a drawer. They need to sign up to that agreement. They will have confidence to innovate because there's risk assurance sitting there and indeed insurance behind it, so they can take second opinions. They will have a common interest in cutting the sort of silo protection costs and having common costs, common planners, etc. And they will be motivated to maximise performance because their profit will be geared, their collective profit will be geared to the performance they achieve against the selected success criteria. So the outcome to be expected from this is improved performance and efficiency and reductions in cost. The more the profit and the lower the cost, of course, the more the profit from the successful outcome, the lower the cost, the more the profit will be as a percentage. So there's the cost, which you concentrate on managing. Price not required. What you need is success criteria and a profit formula, earned profit. And it's not price less cost equals profit. They're two completely different things. And that profit rewards performance. So we're talking about forming an integrated team, including the FM. There's the client, and we're talking about aligning financial objectives. Now what we're adding in, that same model, we're adding in, instead of insurance belonging to every party separately, we're actually forming an upfront insurance panel right at the beginning in a partnership with the integrated team, open, so they can see and influence what is going on. And in order for that to happen, you need to have risk assurance experts, both technical and financial. And the risk assurance experts advise the panel and the client. The product that we have developed, we've said it's been approved by Treasury, etc., to test it. We had one pilot project, and then unfortunately the capital funding was stopped, so we're at the moment trying to get the next pilot project because we have to prove this in practice, or we're trying to talk about it. But the concept is what I'm describing. The team must be integrated and show its commitment to collaboration by a no claim, no blame agreement. There must be independent risk assurance, which is paid for within the premium. There will be team gain share, such as is used, for example, on Procure 21, geared to how successfully the project objectives are delivered, and the shares are predetermined between the client and the rest of the team. So it's not a question of saying who was the good one, who was the bad one. You're in it together, and if it's successful, you get your share of whatever the profit is. And the pain share, the bad side of the equation, same shares, actually pays for the excess, funds the excess under the integrated project insurance policy. And the insurers waive rights of subrogation against all the insured. So actually what's happening, instead of having separate families of policies, and many of them, including possibly latent defects, as we currently have at the moment, with all the problems of dividing lines between them, we actually bring in, subsume them into a financial loss policy. The risk assurers satisfy themselves and then the insurers that there is adequate allowance for risk in the cost plan and that the technical solutions are sound, that they have allowance for foreseeable risk. And then the policy will cover the team on a first-party basis, including the client and the funders. So coming back to the funders. So just finishing off now, this sort of scenario. You start off with a cost plan, and that will have, obviously, to the extent that things have been designed or that you know the costs per square foot, etc., of them, that will be quite firm. But you have, obviously, a risk allowance, and that has to be adequate for the ground and various other things that can't be projected. That gives you the target. Then two possible extremes of outcomes. The first one is that it goes well and the risk fund is not used, and so that becomes gain share. The client has his share of it, the rest of the team have their share, predetermined shares. Alternatively, the risk fund is expended. The cost goes up to the target, and indeed it goes above, and that's the pain share shared by the client and the other members of the team in the predetermined shares. And that's the excess on the policy. So everybody has an interest in this policy not being called. But if it goes above that, then the integrated project insurance policy pays. And there's no question of having to go into why it's happened. Obviously, if the client changes the functional brief, then the cost plan has to be adjusted at the time. If you don't do that, the assurers will give an exclusion notice. And there are other things like that which I can't go into detail. But basically, it's a very straightforward coverage. And so what are the benefits for funders? With modern procurement, supported by independent risk assurance and integrated project insurance, the selection of the team should be a team fit for purpose. Cowboys will not be allowed. The insurers' representatives, in terms of risk assurers, will not want them in there. Design solutions and cost plans will be realistic yet competitive against objective benchmarks, because the whole team will want to pass the benchmark test, so it will be just as competitive. There will be team ownership and an alignment with the client's need. There will be a lean, efficient and waste-averse culture, because that is the answer to getting a better result. And primarily, there will be the security for the funders of a first-party insurance, which will cover insolvency of any member of the team, because that would increase the cost plan and be covered, performance, because you have to deliver the functional brief, and an overspend associated with any of those. Thank you.